Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashtachadeshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashtachadeshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila
Hey,
Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai
hey,
Gaura Premanande.
Hari, Bo. Hari,
Hari.
Hari.
Nice cartel playing, even though we couldn't hear it.
Yeah,
I could
I
tell
wasn't
there was a
sure.
bit of a lag on it.
Yeah, I figured that would be the case.
But
That's
I'm glad you got your cartels.
yeah, I'm happy to. But serving your kirtans is like oh, it's nice. Actually, serving the kirtan, trying to match the mood with the cartel playing. It's such a fun thing, and it's so intuitive, and it's such a good service. It's like it's perfect. It definitely increases attraction.
Ecstatic.
I concur. Hare Krishna. All right. So, we are starting chapter 7 today. Canto 1, chapter 7, Srimad Bhagavatam. The son of Drona punished. So I'll start with the invocation. If you'd like, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 171. The son of Drona punished. Text 1. Shaunaka Uvacha Nirgate Narade Sutta Bhagavan Bhararayanaha Shrutavangstadapi Pretam Tata Kim Akarod Vibhu. Rishi Shanaka asked, O Sutta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narada Muni. So after Narada's departure, what did Vyasadeva do? Purport. In this chapter, the clue for describing Srimad Bhagavatam is picked up as Maharaj Parikshit is miraculously saved in the womb of his mother. This was caused by Drauni, Ashwatthama, Acharya Drona's son, who killed the 5 sons of Draupadi while they were asleep, for which he was punished by Arjuna. Before commencing the great epic Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance in devotion. Text 2. Sutta vacha Ramanadiyam sarasvatyam ashrama paschime tate samya prasiti prokta rishinam satravardanaha. Sri Sutta said, on the western bank of the river Saraswati, which is intimately related with the Vedas, there is a cottage for meditation at Shamyapras, which enlivens the transcendental activities of the sages. Purport. For spiritual advancement of knowledge, a suitable place and atmosphere are definitely required. The place on the western bank of the Saraswati is especially suitable for this purpose. And there is the ashram of Vyasadeva at Shamyapras. Srila Vyasadeva was a householder, yet his residential place is called an ashram. An ashram is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. It does not matter whether the place belongs to a householder or a mendicant. The whole varnashram system is so designed that each and every status of life is called an ashram. This means that spiritual culture is the common factor for all. The brahmacharis, the grihastas, the banaprasthas, and the sannyasis all belong to the same mission of life, namely a realization of the Supreme. Therefore, none of them are less important as far as spiritual culture is concerned. The difference is a matter of formality on the strength of renunciation. The sannyasis are held in high estimation on the strength of practical renunciation. Tasmin swat ashrame vyaso bhadari sandamandite asina pa upasprishya pranidhadya manasvayam. In that place, Srila Vyasadeva in his own ashram, which was surrounded by berry trees, sat down to meditate after touching water for purification. Purport. Under instructions of his spiritual master, Srila Narada Muni, Vyasadeva concentrated his mind in that transcendental place of meditation. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatarapashrayam. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. Purport. Perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service. And one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Imperfect realization of the absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. In the Upanishads also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden glowing Hiranmayena Patrena veil of impersonal Brahman. And when that curtain is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. The Absolute is mentioned here as the Purusha, or person. The absolute personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. The absolute personality of Godhead is the perfect person. The Supreme Person has manifold energies, out of which the internal, external, and marginal energies are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statements of her activities. The internal energy is there along with the absolute person, as the moonlight is there with the moon. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apashrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control. The internal potency or superior energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya, or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of this internal potency, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated. And even those who are Atmaram, or fixed in trance, take shelter of this Maya, or internal energy. Devotional service, or bhakti yoga, is the function of the internal energy. Thus, there is no place for the inferior energy, or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable in the conception of impersonal Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an emanation from the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The Parama Purusha cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna himself, as will be explained in the later shlokas. Text 5. Yaya samahito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manute nartam tatkritam chavipadyate. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. Purport. The root cause of suffering by the materialistic living beings is pointed out with remedial measures which are to be undertaken, and also the ultimate perfection is to be gained. All this is mentioned in this particular verse. The living being is by constitution transcendental to material engagement, but he is now imprisoned by the external energy, and therefore he thinks himself one of the material products. And due to this unholy contact, the pure spiritual entity suffers material miseries under the modes of material nature. The living entity misunderstands himself to be a material product. This means that the present perverted way of thinking, feeling, and willing under material conditions is not natural for him. But he has his normal way of thinking, feeling, and willing. The living being in his original state is not without thinking, willing, and feeling power. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that the actual knowledge of the conditioned soul is now covered by nescience. Thus, the theory that a living being is absolute impersonal Brahman is refuted herein. This cannot be because the living entity has his own way of thinking in his original unconditional state also. The present conditional state is due to the influence of the external energy, which means that the illusory energy takes the initiative while the Supreme Lord is aloof. The Lord does not desire that a living being be illusioned by external energy. The external energy is aware of this fact, but still she accepts a thankless task of keeping the forgotten soul under illusion by her bewildering influence. The Lord does not interfere with the task of the illusory energy because such performances of the illusory energy are also necessary for reformation of the conditioned soul. An affectionate father does not like his children to be chastised by another agent, yet he puts his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to bring them to order. But the all-affectionate Almighty Father, at the same time, desires relief for the conditioned soul, relief from the clutches of the illusory energy. The king puts the disobedient citizens within the walls of the jail, but sometimes the king, desiring the prisoner's relief, personally goes there and pleads for reformation. And on his doing so, the prisoners are set free. Similarly, the Supreme Lord descends from his kingdom upon the kingdom of illusory energy and personally gives relief in the form of the Bhagavad Gita, wherein he personally suggests that although the ways of illusory energy are very stiff to overcome, one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord is set free by the order of the Supreme. This surrendering process is the remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildering ways of the illusory energy. The surrendering process is completed by the influence of association. The Lord has suggested, therefore, that by the influence of the speeches of saintly persons who have actually realized the Supreme, men are engaged in his transcendental loving service. The conditioned soul gets a taste for hearing about the Lord, and by such hearing only, he is gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. The whole thing is completed by the surrendering process. Herein also the same suggestion is made by the Lord in his incarnation of Vyasadeva. This means that the conditioned souls are being reclaimed by the Lord both ways, namely by the process of punishment, by the external energy of the Lord, and by himself as the spiritual master within and without. Within the heart of every living being, the Lord himself, as the supersoul, Paramatma, becomes the spiritual master. And from without, he becomes the spiritual master in the shape of scriptures, saints, and the initiator spiritual master. This is still more explicitly explained in the next shloka. Personal superintendence of the illusory energy is confirmed in the Vedas, the Kena Upanishad, in relation to the demigod's controlling power. Herein also it is clearly stated that the living entity is controlled by the external energy in a personal capacity. The living being, thus subject to the control of external energy, is differently situated. It is clear, however, from the present statement of Bhagavatam that the same external energy is situated in the inferior position before the personality of Godhead or the perfect being. The perfect being or the Lord cannot be approached even by the illusory energy, who can only work on the living entities. Therefore, it is sheer imagination that the Supreme Lord is illusioned by the illusory energy and thus becomes a living being. If the living being and the Lord were in the same category, then it would have been quite possible for Vyasadeva to see it, and there would have been no question of material distress on the part of the illusioned being, for the Supreme Being is fully cognizant. So there are so many unscrupulous imaginations on the part of the monists who endeavor to put both the Lord and the living being in the same category. Had the Lord and the living beings been the same, then Srila Shukadeva Goswami would not have taken the trouble to describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, for they would all be manifestations of illusory energy. Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum remedy for suffering humanity in the clutches of Maya. Srila Vyasadeva, therefore, first of all diagnosed the actual disease of the conditioned souls, that is, their being illusioned by the external energy. He also saw the perfect Supreme Being, from whom illusory energy is far removed, though he saw both the diseased conditioned souls and also the cause of the disease. And the remedial measures are suggested in the next verse. Both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living beings are undoubtedly qualitatively one, but the Lord is the controller of the illusory energy, whereas the living entity is controlled by the illusory energy. Thus, the Lord and the living beings are simultaneously one and different. Another point is distinct herein, that eternal relation between the Lord and the living being is transcendental. Otherwise, the Lord would not have taken the trouble to reclaim the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. In the same way, the living entity is also required to revive his natural love and affection for the Lord, and that is the highest perfection of the living entity. Srimad Bhagavatam treats the conditioned soul with an aim to that goal of life. Hare Krishna. Text 6. Anartho pashamam shakshad bhakti yogam madhokshaje lakasya janato vidvangs chakre satvata sanghitam. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. Purport. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead. This statement suggests that the complete unit of the personality of Godhead includes his parts and parcels also. He saw, therefore, his different energies, namely the internal energy, the marginal energy, and the external energy. He also saw his different plenary portions and parts of the plenary portions, namely his different incarnations also. And he specifically observed the unwanted miseries of the conditioned souls who are bewildered by the external energy. And at last he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls, namely the process of devotional service. It is a great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, glory, and so on of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Revival of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with his loving transcendental service. But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. Such mitigation of material affection does not wait for development of transcendental knowledge. Rather, knowledge is dependent on devotional service for the ultimate realization of the supreme truth. My bhakti senses were tingling, thinking probably Bhakti C liked that section. Maybe, at least I did. Maybe because I liked it, I thought that too.
You are correct, Prabhu. You are very correct. I like hearing. I just like it when he's like always saying that the first step is hearing and chanting. That really stuck out to me.
Nice. Yeah, and this point was kind of brought up the other day. I pointed it out. It was in a purport. Prabhupada said that even though one performs all the rules, regulations, and the regulated things, it doesn't mean that bhakti will manifest. And here we're hearing revival of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with his loving transcendental service. But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. Such mitigation of material affection does not wait for development of transcendental knowledge. Rather, knowledge is dependent on devotional service for the ultimate realization of the supreme truth. So I just thought that was really nice. It was like, even if we're not there yet, if we perform like the externals, one may say, Vaidhi Bhakti, well, we'll get mitigation of the sufferings and things. But it's also by doing that we we invoke the Lord's favor, and he might bestow his mercy upon us at any time. So, anyway, it's just nice. It's like if we're not having a taste, well, still do it. And then, especially if we continue doing it while not really having a taste, that's even more, it entices the Lord even more to bestow His mercy and give you a taste. So it's win-win it's win-win if you do it, and there's no reason not to do it, basically.
Yes, Prabhu, yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, text 7. Yasham vai shruyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktir udpadyate pangsa shokamoha bhayapaha. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. Purport. There are various senses, of which the ear is the most effective. This sense works even when a man is deep asleep. One can protect himself from the hands of an enemy while awake, but while asleep one is protected by the ear only. Oh, this is about to be a nectar report. The importance of hearing is mentioned here in connection with attaining the highest perfection of life, namely, getting free from 3 material pangs. Everyone is full of lamentation at every moment. He is after the mirage of illusory things, and he is always afraid of his supposed enemy. These are the primary symptoms of material disease, and it is definitely suggested herein that simply by hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam one gets attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and as soon as this is affected, the symptoms of the material diseases disappear. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead, and in this statement, the all-perfect personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is clearly confirmed. The ultimate result of devotional service is to develop genuine love for the Supreme Personality. Love is a word which is often used in relation with man and woman, and love is the only word that can be properly used to indicate the relation between Lord Krishna and the living entities. The living entities are mentioned as Prakriti in the Bhagavad Gita, and in Sanskrit, Prakriti is a feminine object. The Lord is always described as the Paramapurusha, or the Supreme Male Personality. Thus, the affection between the Lord and the living entities is something like that between the male and the female. Therefore, the term love of Godhead is quite appropriate. Loving devotional service to the Lord begins with hearing about the Lord. There is no difference between the Lord and the subject matter heard about Him. The Lord is absolute in all respects, and thus there is no difference between Him and the subject matter heard about Him. Therefore, hearing about Him means immediate contact with Him by the process of vibration of the transcendental sound. And the transcendental sound is so effective that it acts at once by removing all material affections mentioned above. As mentioned before, a living entity develops a sort of complexity by material association, and the illusory engagement of the material body is accepted as an actual fact. Under such false complexity, the living beings under different categories of life become illusioned in different ways. Even in the most developed stage of human life, the same illusion prevails in the form of many isms and divides the loving relation with the Lord, and thereby divides the loving relation between man and man. By hearing the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, this false complexity of materialism is removed and real peace in society begins, which politicians aspire for so eagerly in so many political situations. The politicians want a peaceful situation between man and nation and nation. But at the same time, because of too much attachment for material domination, there is illusion and fearfulness. Therefore, the politicians' peace conferences cannot bring about peace in society. It can only be done by hearing the subject matter described in Srimad Bhagavatam about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The foolish politicians may go on holding peace and summit conferences for hundreds of years, but they will fail to achieve success. Until we reach the stage of reestablishing our lost relation with Krishna, the illusion of accepting the body as the self will prevail. And thus, fearfulness will also prevail.
You know, every time he says that, it always feels so like far gone from anything that would ever happen to me. But I wish I could see it more like in a more grounded way where I can really envision such a thing. Donald Trump
What are you
accepting
referring to?
the politicians accepting Krishna,
Oh,
world leaders. I've never thought about it too much, but it's like I've heard of there are some pretty higher ups who've accepted Prabhupada's words, and they're all the way from professors to like some bigger names. So, but I don't know. How does it strike you whenever you hear him talk about that?
well, I was just hearing it in terms of how powerful the Bhagavatam is, and I was um, all excited about hearing, and just I don't know. I was just reveling in the idea of all the blessings being dumped upon us by hearing right now Srimad Bhagavatam, basically.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right. But yeah, I mean, I like hearing about what Prabhupada has to say about modern day society and the politicians and stuff like that, and putting things in perspective in different contexts and different ways. I like hearing about it because
Yeah,
um, it's also very practical to hear how he describes what is going on now, and the way he describes it and the context in which he puts it, it makes it very easily understandable, as to what's going on, what's the problem, how to fix it, and
yeah,
makes you appreciate hearing chanting too. Like he does it in such an astonishing way of also simultaneously, connecting us with Krishna and increasing our tastes and desires for hearing and chanting. It's amazing.
right. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Uh, As for the validity of Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from revealed scriptures, and there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from personal experiences of devotees in various places like Vrindavan, Navadvip, and Puri. Even in the Kaumudi dictionary, the synonyms of Krishna are given as the son of Yashoda and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman. The conclusion is that simply by hearing the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, one can have direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and thereby one can attain the highest perfection of life by transcending worldly miseries, illusion, and fearfulness. These are practical tests for one who has actually given a submissive hearing to the readings of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 8. Sasanghitam bhagavatim kritvanukramya chatmajam sugamai adhyapayamasa nivritti niratam munihi. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who is already engaged in self-realization. Report. Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras compiled by the same author. This Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra is meant for those who are already engaged in self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam is so made that one becomes at once engaged in the path of self-realization simply by hearing the topics. Although it is especially meant for the Paramahamsas, or those who are totally engaged in self-realization, it works into the depths of the hearts of those who may be worldly men. Worldly men are all engaged in sense gratification, but even such men will find in this Vedic literature a remedial measure for their material diseases. Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very beginning of his birth, and his father taught him Srimad Bhagavatam. Amongst mundane scholars, there is some diversity of opinion as to the date of compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is, however, certain from the text of the Bhagavatam that it was compiled before the disappearance of King Parikshit and after the departure of Lord Krishna. When Maharaj Parikshit was ruling the world as the king of Bharatvarsh, he chastised the personality of Kali. According to revealed scriptures and astrological calculation, the age of Kali is in its 5,000th year. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled not less than 5,000 years ago. Mahabharata was compiled before Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Puranas were compiled before Mahabharata. That is an estimation of the date of compilation of the different Vedic literatures. The synopsis of Srimad Bhagavatam was given before the detailed description under instruction of Narada. Srimad Bhagavatam is the science for following the path of Nivritti Marg. The path of Pravritti Marg was condemned by Narada. That path is the natural inclination for all conditioned souls. The theme of Srimad Bhagavatam is the cure of the materialistic disease of the human being, or stopping completely the pangs of material existence. Text 9. Shaunaka vacha savai nivritti nirata sarvatropekshako munihi kashyava brihatim etam atma rama samabhyasat. Sri Shaunaka asked Suta Goswami. Sri Shukadeva Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? Purport. For the people in general, the highest perfection of life is to cease from material activities and be fixed on the path of self-realization. Those who take pleasure in sense enjoyment, or those who are fixed in material bodily welfare work, are called karmis. Out of thousands and millions of such karmis, one may become an Atmarama by self-realization. Atma means self, and Arama means to take pleasure. Everyone is searching after the highest pleasure, but the standard of pleasure of one may be different from the standard of another. Therefore, the standard of pleasure enjoyed by the karmis is different from that of the Atmaramas. The Atmaramas are completely indifferent to material enjoyment in every respect. Srila Shukadeva Goswami had already attained that stage, and still he was attracted to undergo the trouble of studying the great Bhagavatam literature. This means that Srimad Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study even for the Atmaramas, who have surpassed all the studies of Vedic knowledge. Text 10. Wait, well, it's a pretty long one. Is there any discussion points at this time from our Atmaramas online? Stalwart Atmaramas.
None from me. I'm just happy to be here, though.
Jay. Okay, well, if I read one more, it's probably going to be the last one. Kind of all stuffed up. It's hard to breathe and stuff. And it's almost time too. Okay, text 10. Suta vacha atmaramascha munayo nirgranta apyurukame karavantya haitu kim bhaktim matam bhutta guno harihi. All different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in Atma, or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. Purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this Atmarama shloka very vividly before his chief devotee, Srila Sanatana Goswami. He points out 11 factors in the shloka, namely Atmarama, Munaya, Nirgranta, Api, Cha, Urukrama, Koravanti, Ahitukim, Bhaktim, Itam, Bhuta, Gunaha, and Harihi. According to the Vishva Prakash Sanskrit Dictionary, there are 7 synonyms for the word Atmarama, which are as follows: Brahman, the absolute truth; body, mind, endeavor, endurance, intelligence, and personal habits. The word Munaya refers to those who are thoughtful, those who are grave and silent, ascetics, the persistent, mendicants, sages, and saints. The word Nirgranta conveys these ideas. 1. One who is liberated from nescience, one who has no connection with scriptural injunction, that is, who is freed from the obligation of the rules and regulations mentioned in the revealed scriptures, like ethics, Vedas, philosophy, psychology, and metaphysics. In other words, the fools, illiterate, urchins, and so on. You have no connection with regulative principles. 3, a capitalist, and also 4, one who is penniless. According to the Shabdakosh dictionary, the affix ni is used in the sense of certainty, counting, building, and forbiddance. And the word granta is used in the sense of wealth, thesis, vocabulary, and so on. The word urukrama means the one whose activities are glorious. Krama means step. This word urukrama specifically indicates the Lord's incarnation as Vamana, who covered the whole universe by immeasurable steps. Lord Vishnu is powerful, and his activities are so glorious that he has created the spiritual world by his internal potency and the material world by his external potency. By his all-pervading features, he is everywhere present as the supreme truth, and in his personal feature, he is always present in his transcendental abode of Goloka Vrindavan, where he displays his transcendental pastimes in all variegatedness. His activities cannot be compared to anyone else's, and therefore the word urukrama is just applicable to him only. According to Sanskrit verbal arrangement, kodarvanti refers to doing things for someone else. Therefore, it means that the Atmaramas render devotional service unto the Lord not for personal interests, but for the pleasure of the Lord, urukrama. Hetu means causal. There are many causes for one's sense satisfaction, and they can be chiefly classified as material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation, which are generally desired by progressive persons. As far as material enjoyments are concerned, they are immeasurable, and the materialists are eager to increase them more and more because they are under the illusory energy. There is no end to the list of material enjoyments, nor can anyone in the material universe have all of them. As far as the mystic powers are concerned, they are 8 in all, such as to become the minutest in form, to become weightless, to have anything one desires, to lord it over the material nature, to control other living beings, to throw earthly globes in outer space, and so on. These mystic powers are mentioned in the Bhagavatam. The forms of liberation are 5 in number. Therefore, unalloyed devotion means service to the Lord without desire for the above-mentioned personal benefits. And the powerful personality of Godhead Sri Krishna can be fully satisfied by such unalloyed devotees free from all sorts of desires for personal benefits. Unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. Practice of devotional service in the material field is of 81 different qualities. And above such activities is the transcendental practice of devotional service, which is one and is called sadhana bhakti. When unalloyed practice of sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord begins gradually developing into 9 progressive stages of loving service under the headings of attachment, love, affection, feelings, affinity, adherence, following, ecstasy, and intense feelings of separation. The attachment of an inactive devotee develops up to the stage of transcendental love of God. Attachment of an active servitor develops up to the stage of adherence. And that, for a friendly devotee, develops up to the stage of following. And the same is also the cause for the parental devotees. Devotees in conjugal love develop ecstasy up to the stage of intense feelings of separation. These are some of the features of unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. According to Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya, the import of the word itam bhuta is complete bliss. Transcendental bliss in the realization of impersonal Brahman becomes comparable to the scanty water contained in the pit made by a cow's hoof. It is nothing compared with the ocean of bliss of the vision of the personality of Godhead. The personal form of Lord Sri Krishna is so attractive that it comprehends all attraction, all bliss, and all tastes, rasas. These attractions are so strong that no one wants to exchange them for material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation. There is no need of logical arguments in support of this statement. But out of one's own nature, one becomes attracted by the qualities of Lord Sri Krishna. We must know for certain that the qualities of the Lord have nothing to do with mundane qualities. All of them are full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. There are innumerable qualities of the Lord, and one is attracted by one quality while another is attracted by another. Great sages such as the 4 bachelor devotees, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar, were attracted by the fragrance of flowers and tulsi leaves anointed with the pulp of sandalwood offered at the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, Shukadeva Goswami was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami was already situated in the liberated stage, yet he was attracted by the pastimes of the Lord. This proves that the quality of his pastimes has nothing to do with material affinity. Similarly, the young cowherd damsels were attracted by the bodily features of the Lord, and Rukmini was attracted by hearing about the glories of the Lord. Lord Krishna attracts even the mind of the goddess of fortune. He attracts, in special cases, the minds of all young girls. He attracts the minds of the elderly ladies by parental affection. He attracts the minds of the males in the humors of servitude and friendship. The word Hari conveys various meanings, but the chief import of the word is that he, the Lord, vanquishes everything inauspicious and takes away the mind of the devotee by awarding pure transcendental love. By remembering the Lord in acute distress, one can be free from all varieties of misery and anxieties. Gradually, the Lord vanquishes all obstacles on the path of devotional service of a pure devotee. And the result of 9 devotional activities, such as hearing and chanting, becomes manifested. What a definition that was. By his personal features and transcendental attributes, the Lord attracts all psychological activities of a pure devotee.
Can I add something?
Huh?
Can I say something?
Hari.
So I was saying that name, Hedy. Well, this entity I hear in my head every day, he messes with me, and he was actually my subtle body was like kind of being possessed a little bit, and my gross body was being affected too by it. It was like interacting, and anyways, I was shaking and having like tremors, and like it wasn't like weak. It was like I was like actually going through a lot of pain internally, like a really severe amount of pain, and it was just lasting and lasting and lasting. And I'm like, oh, I'll just say Hadi. So I started saying Hari, 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 really genuinely, like Hari, Hari. And I ended up vomiting. And then as soon as I vomited, it all went away. I was saying Hari, and in the middle of a Hari, I started vomiting. As soon as I finished vomiting, the voice stopped doing all those things to me. So Haribo. In conclusion, Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Well, it sounds like you're chanting the right thing, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Okay. By his personal features and transcendental attributes, the Lord attracts all psychological activities of a pure devotee, such as the attractive power of Lord Krishna. The attraction is so powerful that a pure devotee never hankers for any one of the four principles of religion. These are the attractive features of the transcendental attributes of the Lord. And adding to this the words upi and cha, one can increase the imports unlimitedly. According to Sanskrit grammar, there are 7 synonyms for the word upi. So by interpreting each and every word of the shloka, one can see unlimited numbers of transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna that attract the mind of a pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hey,
Whew, Hare Krishna. Anything else anybody would like to share? So, back to Adam.
yeah,
Since you were sharing that,
yeah.
maybe maybe we could give a little context for the rest of the hearers of where you're coming from.
About like,
They may not know uh, your situation.
yeah, I hear voices. I hear a voice and this one voice. It used to be multiple voices, but now I realize it's like one voice who's pretending to be other voices. Anyways, I hear voices, and I have heard them since 2022, and they just basically it's like subtle entities that are it's like you're hearing the thoughts of another person actually, but
You're diagnosed with,
schizoaffective PD.
and so really, you can really be an inspiration because you're. I don't know how many devotees there are that have to navigate, different schizoaffective or schizophrenic, um, conditions or whatever. But I don't think there's a lot. I know that there are some,
Yeah,
and so it's actually quite inspirational to hear how chanting actually helps and affects your mind in a very nice, helpful way. And
yeah.
so, anyway, just giving some context because some people, if they don't know, they might not be able to understand sometimes where you're coming from. So I just wanted to, I thought it'd be nice to share that because it's actually inspirational that there's a lot of different variations and things that come with that condition that people don't really know. There's so many different um, like versions of it, and people don't know what people have to go through and what they have to deal with, and to be able to have you know uh, devotion and engage in devotional service and to be able to see the positive effects of hearing and chanting and devotional service uh, is really it's nice. It's nice to hear.
Prabhupada has said that when a devotee is put into distress, he accepts this as God's mercy and offers him repeated obeisances with his body, mind, and intellect. An intelligent person should always be satisfied depending on the mercy of the Lord. I read that, and whenever I read stuff like that, it's like immediately it sticks out because initially I was looking for answers, like God, how do I get rid of this kind of problem? And
Right.
but yeah, so Prabhupada has the answers that I need.
Right. And everybody has some kind of thing they're dealing with.
Yeah,
Prabhupada said, with this human body in general, is we're making the best use of a bad bargain.
right.
So yeah, I mean, what can what can be better to do than engage in devotional service, to whatever capacity we can. Hare Krishna.
Hari.
We have something on the chat. I'm gonna try to read it. From Ishani Mataji. Harry Ball, he's in the right place. ISKCON is a hospital. I'm glad you're here, Prabhuji.
Yes. That's probably why whenever you told me your story, it was so inspiring, Ishani, because that is super true for me as well.
Hare Krishna. I'm glad I can be there for you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I don't feel sick, but all day today I was feeling kind of like not very great, like having a headache and like body is stiff and just not feeling like totally great. And I was making offerings to the deities here, and the incenses agitate me and stuff. So I don't really feel great. I got like a headache behind my eyeballs and stuff. So if there's no other points, I mean, if there are, I definitely want to hear them. But if not, then we'll probably wrap up here. Continue tomorrow with text 11.
I have an appreciation in the purport of this last verse, verse 10, text 10, when Prabhupada was saying that there's like innumerable amounts of material enjoyment and nobody can actually, you know, enjoy all of them as much as people try. I feel like there's a lot of humans that think like the ultimate goal of life is to try and just enjoy like everything that they can, like, even everything possible. It's not possible. You'll just keep on trying harder and harder to hanker for more and more and never be satisfied until you
Right.
get the full spiritual satisfaction that actually fills up uh, the full breadth of like your whole being. It's said that the material world is like 25% of everything. The spiritual world is like 75, the other 75%. Without the spiritual world, we're completely just like scraping by, trying to enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you bringing that up, it's hard for me to imagine exactly like life without Krishna consciousness and just trying to enjoy. Like even for myself, I had a very short phase when I was a teenager, or maybe like 19, 20, where I never was like super into drinking or anything, but there was a short time when uh, I would be skateboarding a lot, and I would drink and do gigantic skateboarding tricks and film and stuff like that. And very quickly, it lost its attraction to me, and I just quit. I never really did it that long, never really did it that much. And after a pretty short time, it was like, this kind of sucks. So I stopped doing it. And then I know people who, uh, not, I'm just using drinking as an example, but this kind of thing, partying, drinking, maybe drug use, maybe some other thing, and they just like they started when they were in their teens, and then they just keep doing it and keep doing the same thing and keep doing the same thing, and even like my dad's age, my dad's not that old. He's like 17 years older than me. So my dad's like 52. but he's like more like my a friend than my dad. But like from my age up to his age, and knowing people who just stayed in that lifestyle, they don't have any spiritual inclination, and just basically just keep doing the same thing. I couldn't imagine like what that would be like. I would imagine, it would really not be very enjoyable. I mean, just in my little experience of what I did when I was younger, it became not very enjoyable very, very quickly. So, yeah, you can only, I mean, at least for me, I can only imagine, uh, what one feels internally, uh, living that life of never ending, chasing material enjoyment and not thinking of anything else. And even if, like you're saying, Prabhuji, like Prabhupada said, like material enjoyment's like a water-laden sponge. Or it's like, a sponge filled with water. If you just barely touch it, like water will gush out of it. But the more you squeeze it, then the harder it is to just get a single drop out of it. And so material enjoyment's like that. And like you're saying, uh, we may experience that with some particular enjoyments that we do. And people will just switch to something else. Like, I played the guitar for 10 years and I learned everything I wanted to learn. It was just kind of getting boring. So now I'm taking up, I don't know, parachuting or something. And then after so long, it's like, try something else. But even if you do that, there comes a time when a lot of people, even if they change to a new thing, then it gets older faster. It's like, I thought this was going to be fun, but it's just kind of the same thing. And it gets old. Anyway, yeah.
It also becomes painful eventually when you like you said with the last drop of the sponge, like you'll end up like spraining your wrist or something trying to like get that last little drop out.
Yeah. Sometimes I have within the last year, I decided to go skateboarding a few times. The last two times I went skateboarding, both times I dislocated my arm.
Oh wow.
And I wasn't even doing anything, just because my arm's prone to be dislocated because it got dislocated once. So now, if I just move the wrong kind of way, it can just slip out of place like uh, very easily, like just jumping on flat ground. And so anyway, it's just kind of like I'm experiencing exactly what you're saying, even though I'm not really trying that hard, to enjoy it, because pretty much gave it up. I don't really care. I would go just for try to get a little exercise, or maybe even just whatever reason, meet people or get out and do something. But it's not, it's different for someone who's like, this is all they got. They don't have any higher idea of anything. So it's like it can be really frustrating and devastating. So people, they'll turn to alcohol and other intoxicants and stuff. Just anyway, yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
point.
Earlier, even during the reading, I was thinking about uh, like the amount of value to like the spiritual knowledge versus like the material possessions. Like I have people that will like judge me for like maybe not having like my own house, or maybe like asking for assistance on like something that I have to pay for or something. And they think like, oh, like you need to get your life together, like you're doing things wrong. And I'm thinking to myself like, well, I have things that you don't have, and like you don't even want the things that I have. Like I know you don't, because I try and like tell you about them and you just like don't want anything to do with it. And I feel almost like similarly about like the material enjoyments and all of it. I'm just like, I don't want all of the misery that comes with having to deal with like constantly trying to accumulate more and more and trying to look better than everybody else, trying to become attractive in a material way. Much rather become attractive to Krishna and feel the transcendental bliss of being around devotees and sharing and serving them, because I can feel that. And it's a feeling that I assume they haven't really felt before, and it's a great wealth to me.
Yeah, and what you're sharing is also, it's amazing, but it's different mind states. Because, yeah, people don't want it. They're not interested. And, they chase the material quality of pleasures. And even all, like you're saying, all the miseries that are required, hard work and, so many things that's required to build up a material situation, to build a big bank account, to do all these things. It takes so much work, a lot of times these guys, they work really hard and they sacrifice their family relationships to get ahead at work or climb the corporate ladder or whatever. And then they end up like rich with everything they wanted and the money, but then their family all resents them or completely whatever shuns them or leaves or whatever. And then they're just like rich with all this stuff and then living in a big empty place and they're miserable because it sucks whenever there's nobody to share it with. And anyway, yeah, it's amazing the difference in mentality. People have a sense of pride, putting in the work. It kind of it inflates their sense of self or whatever it is, and that's basically their enjoyment is like the sense of like I'm awesome because I'm doing this.
Right. It's like they're trying to fit into like this completely, mundane, just idea. But like, I'm trying to fit into uh, just resonating instead of trying to resonate with like the whole social system of materialism. I'm trying to resonate with like every atom and like Krishna within like every atom when I'm chanting. So there's like so much more actual connection for me doing it that way. Like I had a friend recently, and they're like, "Oh, like when I'm chanting out in public, like why do I feel so like embarrassed?" And I'm like, "Well, it's just because they're not used to it, and like it's like you feel kind of like distant or different from everybody. But actually, in reality, you're actually getting in tune with like every cell and every atom because Krishna is within every cell and within every atom, and you're actually like much more connected than you think you are."
Right. Yeah.
They found that helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting to examine the uh, the mindset of a materialistic person. Like people who don't care to have any experience or sense of that deeper connection, and they're satisfied with just the superficial stuff. Like, yeah, in a situation where you or I would just feel miserable, they somehow, uh, you know, I don't know. It's basically like ignorance is bliss kind of thing. But yeah, in my experience of is observing and interacting and being materialistic myself, they try to convince themselves like they hope against hope that what they're doing is going to make them happy, and then if it's not, they don't want to accept it, so they just force themselves into a state of satisfaction or settling for whatever it is they have, and they come off as very like they're happy, but deep down inside they're really just not. It's just like disassociating with your own self deep down.
Yep, exactly. Everyone's acting for the most part.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
they have that the pride of the false self. Then once they like attain like that sense of pride, they walk around like they're actually like happy and proud and all of this. But I've been in those positions, and it to me it always just feels like I'm acting. If I'm not
Yeah,
actually absorbed in Krishna consciousness, I'm not actually like fully satisfied. Like I'll be laughing or something, but it's very mundane. It's very surface level every time.
right. Nice reflections, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
I hope your
All
health
right.
can improve soon.
What's that?
I'm gonna pray for your health.
Oh, thanks. I'm all right. But yeah, I'll take all prayers too. But yeah, we'll be good. We'll be here tomorrow. This this weekend, I'm I was asked or suggested to go to this. There's a leadership zone, a GBC Zone 2 in-person leadership meeting. That's what it is. And so Zone 2 is like uh, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, all the way over to Indiana, all the way over to New England. Like apparently that's a GBC zone. This whole uh, I don't know area. Um, so you know, Prem Vilas Prabhu is basically empowering me. He told me that I just talked to him earlier today. He said Southwest Ohio is your Prabhu today. She said Southwest Ohio is yours. So he's trying to encourage me to build this up and expand even to there's neighboring towns.
Wow.
There's Hawking or something like the Hawking Hills, and then there's the place called Logan and whatever, Parkersburg, West Virginia. So
Wow.
anyway, they suggested I go to that thing, so I registered, so I'm going to that. But that's Saturday and Sunday, and then on Saturday evening, there's a really nice devotee couple here in Athens that asked me to come to their home, and I just cannot refuse. So I'm going to go to New Vrindavan and I'm going to do part of the meeting, and then I'm going to leave and come back here to go to do this person's home program at their home. And I'm going to go back and then be in New Vrindavan for the Sunday meeting. So anyway, uh, stay tuned for the schedule. I think that basically Saturday I might have to just adjust the time. Sunday should be our regular time because I don't have a Sunday program to do here. So anyway, just letting you know, Saturday might be a little bit different, but I'll try to communicate nicely so you know. Might be a little hectic though, managing all these things and driving back and forth. It's like a 2 hour drive at least or whatever. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
All glories to your service, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. All glory.
All glories to that.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Haribo.
All right, well, okay.
You can do great things. Nice.
Well, Hare Krishna. It's only as good as our association. I got the
Wow.
association of the stalwart Atmaramas, then everything will be good. But yeah, I'm getting fired up. I'm like thinking, I'm like really, okay, trying to, settling into a vision of what direction things are going to go and whatnot. But yeah, feeling good about, you know, it's good. Just no problem. It's all good. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Thank you guys for sharing and hearing. And we should be here same time tomorrow.
Haribo.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare, Hare, Hare.
We'll see you. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.